Hello and welcome to today's edition of Super Chat, Facebook Live edition. My name is Jackson Sugden and I'm a junior here at the high school. And today I'm joined with our superintendent, Mr. Como.
Good afternoon, Jackson. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Fantastic.
Well, that's great. So today we discuss the district-wide stadium bond election. And if you have any comments, make sure to leave them down in the comments below before we start. Without further ado.
Thank you, Jackson, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. In February of 2024, the NISD Board of Trustees called for a bond election to consider construction of a new district-wide stadium. This begins with the long-range planning process. We review district-wide historic and future enrollment projections. We assess campus and departmental needs. We gather feedback from a bond committee made up of administration, staff, and community members. And that all led up to our Board of Trustees calling for a bond election in the amount of $100 million, with election day being Saturday, May the 4th. You can see here a preliminary rendition of what would be potentially the new stadium. Remember, as we go through this process, this continually develops, and our architects should have a more definitive rendering available for us on April the 8th. So what's in the scope of the new bond? First, it has a seating capacity of up to 12,000. It includes a turf field, press box lighting with a scoreboard and audio-visual equipment, multiple locker rooms, home and visitor restrooms and concessions, parking, a community room which will house up to 150 people, and career and technical education classrooms. Within the career and technical education classrooms, we will house audio-video technology, including Coyote Vision and broadcasting, sports medicine, which will help with athletic training, health science classes. We will also have graphic design, culinary arts, which will include an industrial kitchen built for the community room, and that will allow us to expand our culinary arts program. The community room will be a banquet-style room equipped with an industrial kitchen capable of accommodating up to 150 people. And community organizations will have the opportunity to rent and utilize the community room similar to the way that they do with other NISD facilities. We've gotten the question, why a district-wide stadium? A district-wide stadium will consolidate our resources by serving multiple schools, accommodating up to 4 high schools, 8 middle schools, and 16 elementary schools. This approach will eliminate the necessity of building individual stadiums for each school, optimizing resource allocation across our growing district. It's important to note that this district-wide stadium will not replace Coyote Stadium. One of the main reasons for the need for an additional stadium is that we're now 5A. Our community continues to grow. Within 5A high schools, student enrollment exists between 1,315 and 2,274 students. Bands with these schools will take on about 200 to 300 students, along with drill teams with 40 to 60 members. Currently, the visitor side of Coyote Stadium will seat about 1,600 people. Next, we'll take a look at the current realignment, which moved us to 5A. For a comparison, we have utilized the schools in District 3, and you see there we are located in District 4. As we move to the next slide, these are the stadiums which service these high schools. They range at the high end from Toyota Stadium in Frisco, which seats 20,000, and if you look all the way down the list, there at the bottom, our current Coyote Stadium will seat 4,600 people. With a current stadium capacity of 4,600, we've received the question, is it possible to expand the current Coyote Stadium? In 2018, we renovated Coyote Stadium, and after that renovation, we are landlocked. Therefore, we can't expand the seating capacity, including the stands or the parking facilities. So what are the current trends with enrollment in NISD? The number that you see highlighted on the screen, 53 89 came from October of 2023-2024, which is known as our snapshot date. The district is forecasted to add 1,200 new homes annually over the next 2 to 5 years, with an enrollment of more than 9,000 by the year 28-29 and almost 14,000 students in 2033-34. Our next slide looks at the DFW Home Ranking Report, where we're 17th on the list. It identifies annual starts, which are 1,020 here in Anna ISD, annual closings at 1,142, inventory at 781 available. But two of the most important features of this chart are VDL, which stands for Vacant Developed Lots, which for us here in Anna is 1,643, and the future lots, 10,355. So with this growth, how does the school funding process work? Our school tax rate has two separate sides. We have an M&O side, which stands for Maintenance and Operations. Maintenance Operations takes care of day-to-day operations such as salaries, utilities, instructional materials, repairs, and fuel. Roughly 80% of our budget goes to teachers and staff salaries. Therefore, if a bond is authorized, that money could not be used to pay salaries. It comes from the other side of our tax rate. For the average citizen, this is similar to expenses such as groceries, minor repairs, utilities, car fuel, and routine services. In other words, a weekly budget or a monthly budget. The other side of our tax rate is known as INS, or interest and sinking. Principal and interest payments on debt issued for such things as new construction, renovations, heating and AC systems, roof replacements, and land purchases. For the average citizen, this would be expenses such as a home mortgage, a home renovation, land purchases, major appliance replacement, or automobile purchases. We pay for this over time, up to 30 years. So what does our tax rate look like over the last few years? On this slide, we've identified our M&O, INS, and total tax rate from the years 2018-19 through our current 2023-2024. If you look back at 2018-19, our M&O tax rate was $1.17 per $100 of evaluation, with an INS tax rate of 50 cents, for a total tax rate of $1.67. As we've moved over the last few years, you will notice that our M&O tax rate for operations has continually been compressed. This has been done as a result of legislation from the state of Texas. The INS tax rate has remained constant. I will point out to you 2022-23, in which the community here in Anna authorized us for a $793 million bond. Our tax rate on the INS side did not change, nor has it changed in 2023-24. So from 2018-19 to 2023-24, our tax rate has dropped from a total of $1.67 per $100 of evaluation to $1.25.75 per $100 of evaluation. If you look at the ballot on Election Day, you will notice that the language says the issuance of $100 million in bonds by Anna Independent School District and levying the tax in payment thereof. This is a property tax increase. This ballot language is required by our legislature. What it's actually saying is it will increase the amount of tax revenue generated by the 50-cent tax. It will not result in an increased tax rate. Living in Collin County, our property values continue to go up. The reason why taxes go up is that the value of the property goes up. Our tax rate, as previously demonstrated, has not been raised in more than 6 years. This will not or would not end up in a tax rate increase. So how can the district pay back bonds without increasing my taxes? Simply put, it's our growth. It's the number of new homes that are coming up in our community, as well as new businesses, and the taxes collected from these new homes and businesses are covering the additional cost. So existing taxpayers won't bear the burden of repaying additional bonds. The voting dates Early voting is April 22nd through April 30th, with Election Day being May the 4th. For more information, please visit nisdbond.com for voting times and locations.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. So now we're on to the question portion of the live. Our first question coming in, why don't you use the money to pay the teachers more?
Well, Jackson, as we previously talked about in the presentation, there are two sides to our tax rate. The interest and sinking side, which is used to repay bonds, is only to make debt service payments. The money generated on the maintenance and operations side are the funds that we're able to pay teachers with, and obviously we want to pay teachers all that we can pay them.
And where will the new stadium be located?
Great question. So without authorization for the bond, we can't go out and make a land purchase. But what we can do is look at the growing trends in our school district and where those locations are. So obviously, if we were going to start looking today, we would look west of I-75 near the property in which we've just secured to build our second high school.
It's an interesting one. How much would our current stadium cost if we built it today?
You know, that's the thing. Inflation has been really crazy over the last few years, somewhere around 18 to 20% in construction. And so if we were to rebuild Coyote Stadium at each of our subsequent high schools, we would be looking at a minimum of $40 to $50 million per stadium.
And, I was curious about this one. Why is there not a track plan to be built on the new stadium?
Well, if you remember on the slide where we talked about that this would not replace Coyote Stadium, long-range plan is to utilize the track at Coyote Stadium, turn it into a primarily track facility, as well as an alternate site for football, soccer, all of those things, band. And so we would use that primarily as the track facility. There would also be a practice facility for track at each of our campuses, much like the one that we built at Clemens Creek, which we opened this year.
Gotcha. And seems to be our final question. What are the plans for the current stadium?
Well, again, our plan would be to turn that into a track stadium and continue to use that for our district. Because of the previous renovation and the fact that we cannot expand it anymore, it really is going to find it difficult to meet the needs of a growing district like we have.
We do have a question.
Okay, it seems we're getting one more question from the live. So bear with us while we get that.
Yeah, how was the 100 million determined?
Oh yeah, how was the 100 million number determined?
Okay, the 100 million was determined as we see the need, or as the board considers the need. We consult with architects and contractors to see what the current rate of building is and what that would cost. And we're trying to project that over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years because, as you may know, building a facility such as a stadium or a campus for that matter doesn't happen like building a home. We have to plan out 2, 3, 4 years in advance. And so we try to interpret what inflation is going to look like at that point, and we get that information from contractors and our architects.
Okay, there's a second part to that question.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any documentation on the process that you just spoke of, or decision-making process on how the size and scope of the stadium was decided?
Yeah, I mean, first,
Can you kind of repeat that question?
Yeah.
Repeat that question.
So is there any documentation that determined the size and the build of the stadium?
well, the first thing that we look at, we go to our long-range planning committee and we evaluate stadiums that other school districts have built that are common size. We try to learn from what other people have done and improve upon that. We bring that through the long-range facility planning committee, and then we take it from there to recommendations from the board. When the board has a recommendation like that brought to them, we obviously have a price tag that we have to attach to that, which we get from the architects and contractors.
Okay. Does the 100 million include land for a stadium?
Yes, it does. Land for the stadium is pretty interesting here in Collin County. Obviously, land is very valuable. And what we're currently looking at is a piece of property big enough that we could potentially multi-purpose in the future. We're seeking out partnerships with some local businesses and things like that, along with potentially moving more of our CTE program there in the future. So we're looking at somewhere between 80 and 100 acres.
Okay. What happens when the growth stops?
Well, when the growth stops, that's one of the biggest issues that we have in a fast growth community. You try to interpret that. We work with demographers, which we meet with on a quarterly basis. Every year, we've been doing that for more than 6 years. As the growth slows down, you have to slow down the building. Just because an authorization might be given that doesn't mean that you have to build it, right? So our tax base has to grow to the point to where it can support those debt service payments. If the tax base slows down, then obviously we slow down on planning, we slow down on construction, and therefore we don't issue those bonds, we don't have to repay the debt.
So the entire bond is based on projections. So as long as we're hitting our projections, we're good.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
As long as we keep hitting or exceeding, as we've done the last few years, our projections, then of course we have to either speed up the process or slow down the process depending on the growth of both tax base and the number of students that we're serving here in our school district.
What is the ISD doing currently to save money to maintain new buildings and support the teachers?
Well, first and foremost, efficiency within education in the state of Texas is very, very important. We try to operate as efficiently as we can, at the same time offering our students and our community the very best product that we can offer. And in doing that, new buildings actually help us with maintenance. Most of our buildings here, our oldest existing operating elementary school is just a little over 20 years old. We try to stay ahead of the maintenance schedule with those, consisting of maintenance, HVAC, flooring, all of those kind of things, to try to make sure that the kids have the best that we can possibly offer them, including obviously the best staff and offering the staff the best that we can offer them.
That's all the questions, but here's what you could do.
Okay. That wraps up our questions for today. If you have any more questions, make sure to email communications@nisd.com. Just another reminder, early voting is from April 22nd to April 30th, and Election Day is Saturday, May 4th.
.org,
.org, not .com. Communications@nisd.org. And from all of us here at Anna High School and ISD, we hope you have a great day.
Thank you for joining us, and remember, it's always a great day to be an Anna Coyote.
Every single day.